individuals, if we do not inspire them, if we do not give them opportunity to grow as human beings, if we do not empower them, then they cannot bring about transformation. But it's also institutions which allow the best individuals to rise, to be able to lead. And politics is the process through which the best individuals rise. The tragedy of India is, if I asked each of you what you would like to do 10 years hence, you would all come up with various answers. You would say some of you would like to go into the IAS, some into the police, some would like to be doctors, some would like to be artists, some would like to be directors, and all kinds of things. Very few would like to say you would like to go into public life and politics to change the country. If somebody had the courage to say that, almost certainly there would be guffaws and they'd be sniggering all around. Because we have contempt for politics. Because we think politics is a dirty word. But we don't realize that Mahatma Gandhi was a politician. Aung San Suu Kyi, to my mind the greatest living woman today, is a politician. Nelson Mandela, still alive, but I suppose he was a politician. He's no longer into public life in that sense. Abraham Lincoln was a politician. Every one of our freedom fighters was a politician. True politics is a noble endeavor, because true politics is about promotion of human happiness. It's about reconciling conflicts in society, particularly in societies like ours, Hindu, Muslim, North, South, Hindi, non-Hindi, and 100 other fractures and divisions, Telugu, Tamil, or Kannada, or Marathi. Politics is about reconciling these conflicts. True politics is about reconciling our limited resources with unlimited wants. There's nobody on earth who says or believes that he or she has more money than she needs. You go to Bill Gates and say, oh, you have billions and billions, and what do you do with money? He says, no, but I don't have enough money. Because he has dreams bigger than his money. You go to any human being, there's not one person who feels that he has enough resources. Because everybody's dreams are bigger than the resources. That's true with nations too. The function of politics, therefore, is to prioritize, to reconcile the limited resources with unlimited wants. Because that is the nature of human beings. If you have unlimited resources and limited wants, that happens only in a place called heaven, it should be a terribly boring place. There's nothing for human beings to do. If you have everything in the world, nothing to worry about, then what is life about? What is innovation about? What is the challenge of life? Nothing. Real life is challenging, exciting. There are great opportunities. You live in a phenomenal age. You are a privileged generation. For the first time in our history, not only as a country but as a globe, we have the opportunity to eliminate all avoidable suffering and to fulfill all human potential, because we have the resources and we have the technology. No other generation before you could claim this. 110 or 15 years ago, Victor Hugo, heralding the 20th century, he wrote, in the 20th century, war will be dead. That was his pious dream. In the 20th century, the scaffold wall, the wall from where people were hanged, the scaffold wall will be dead. In the 20th century, for all, there will be but one country, that country, the whole earth. For all, there will be but one hope, that hope, the whole heaven. All hail them, that noble 20th century. But 20th century saw the two greatest wars in human history. It saw the largest infliction of wanton suffering on fellow human beings. It saw blind hatred in the name of ideology or religion or race. also saw phenomenal innovation and immense possibilities. But you are lucky, because you have the best of the 20th century today. And hopefully mankind has learned from the worst of the 20th century today. And your generation today has for the first time both the resources and the technology. You can fulfill all human potential. You can eliminate all avoidable suffering. Of course, there will be some naysayers who say, but India is such a mess, there's corruption everywhere, there's rot here, there. Of course, there are many great challenges. But don't ever believe that everything is bad. There is no room for cynicism and despair. But if you want to get where we want to, it will not happen by a miracle. You must make those miracles happen. When status quo is unsustainable, change is inevitable. The challenge is not whether or not change will come. The challenge is what kind of change will come. If we wait and hope and pray for some kind of a change to deliver us out of a crisis as a nation, now I'm talking of the nation, then that hope will be a vain hope. Some 20 years ago, or 21, 22 years ago, there was a very famous story. I'm very fond of recounting the story. In the then Soviet Union, everybody knew that the Soviet system collapsed, that communism, as practiced, was a myth. It was a great instrument for a few people to acquire power over others and oppress the bulk of the people. Everybody hated it. They wanted change. They fervently hoped for change, but did not act for change. They were hoping that somebody, some great messiah, would deliver them out of the crisis. In that backdrop, I believe one day, hundreds were queuing up in front of a ration shop in Moscow city in the bitter, biting, cold winter morning. No, I never visited Moscow, but Moscow is famed for its winters. Very cold, people were shivering. They were waiting for a few rations, for a few crumbs of bread for their children hungry at home. They waited and waited for hours, but there was no bread inside. One young man like you, but somebody who was not a participant in a program like this, and therefore the anger boiled over, that young man said, I'm sick and tired of this. It's an insult to all of us. We can decimate the whole world with our nuclear arsenal, but we don't have bread for our children hungry at home. I'll go and kill the General Secretary in Kremlin, and he stormed off in protest. As you know, the General Secretary of the Communist Party in those days was the chief of the country. The others still waited patiently. They did not say a word because there was still communism, dictatorship, there was fear of the secret police and so on and so forth. This young man left, the others still waited, hoping for the bread, but there's no bread was in sight. The young man returned after 2 hours. All these people gathered on him and asked him excitedly, what happened? Have you killed the General Secretary? Is there a mob pit in Kremlin? Is there a riot there? Can you rob this store? Our children are hungry at home, it's very cold here, still you have no bread. Please tell us what happened. This young man said, what killing the General Secretary? I went there to kill him, but there was a much longer queue waiting there. People recounted this story in all of the then Soviet Union, all the 15 republics. In millions of homes, people laughed about it, but they did nothing about it. Eventually, 20 years ago, change did come, but the wrong kind of change. A nation broke up into 15 fragments. An empire collapsed. An economy lay in ruins. A civilization fell into crisis and disrepute. Only now, 20 years later, largely because of the good fortune of oil wealth, not because of any great act of courage or statesmanship or leadership, they are now picking up the pieces. If we do not act with clarity, with courage, with conviction, and collectively, change will still come, but not necessarily the kind of change we need and we deserve. You will change this country because this is your country. You constitute the young people of this country 73% of India. In terms of the number of years you're going to live, personally as you live in this country, you account for 94% of India. Our share is just about 6%. In a true sense, you are the inheritors of this country. In a true sense, what you do today shapes your future, your destiny. Take charge of it. Don't let anybody call you down. Don't let anybody bring down your morale. Don't yield to cynicism and despair. We haven't done too badly as a country. It's remarkable that this country of diversity, this unmatched diversity, the country that was born with enormous tumult and suffering and bloodshed at the time of partition, could actually withstand all these travails. And while many problems remain, we could actually achieve a measure of prosperity. But more important, we could retain both freedom and unity. It's no mean achievement. But we can do a lot more, and we need to do a lot more. And you have a fantastic opportunity. Make the most of it. And this journey, I'm sure this week or 8 days, is one important milestone in your personal journeys. But more important, I'm sure thousands more will have an opportunity to introspect, to reflect, to interact, to have fun, and to collectively shape a vision for the future of this country, and to take charge of this great civilization of 5,000 years, and reshape this country and show the light, not only to future generations of this country, but perhaps in some measure to the rest of mankind. I wish you all the very best.